Welcome to the Bearded Finisher Podcast, your one-stop show for all things finishing and coatings. Your host, Zach, and a variety of industry experts will guide you through the art of perfecting your finishing and business game. From seasoned pros to fresh faces, get ready for tips, tricks, and trends to elevate your knowledge and business to the next level.
What is going on, everybody? Today's episode, we are going to be talking with Jeff with Steelhead Technologies out of the Detroit area, right, Jeff? How's it going? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Zach. Actually traveling a little bit today over in our Minneapolis office, working with the sales and marketing team, but beautiful fall day here over in Minneapolis.
Excellent. Well, let's just I was doing some research. We'll just do a quick background, and then I want to kind of get your take on it. Steelhead Technologies, you and I kind of talked offline a little bit and via LinkedIn. You guys are a resource project management type tool for the application side of manufacturing, not necessarily for what we normally think of making the parts, but as kind of like a middleman who's doing finishing on parts and whether it be powder coating or wet coatings, whatever that may be.
Sure. Yeah, Zach. Steelhead Technologies is a purpose-built platform for running your business. You could use the term ERP. If you look at our accounting, timesheets, payroll, sales orders, shipping, invoicing, things like that, kind of traditional business tools. Also at MES, so manufacturing execution system, you are correct. We have a huge focus on coding shops. So that's going to be work orders, operating instructions. We're completely digital out on the plant floor so that you can see your job costing, you know where parts are at. You can actually decide, did I make money or did I not make money on that job? But also not having your operators banging away in Excel. It's a very easy to use system that works passively in the background to track those costs. So we're digital first, but also increasingly CRM tools as well. So if you look at, your customer experience using an app like Uber or Amazon, it's extremely easy, like to request, to shop, to call a cab, whatever it is. So we want, so our focus is on job shop or services-based manufacturing, where they aren't building blenders and ovens and cars and computers. They're working on in cabinets and appliances. They are providing services for someone else who is building the end product and sending it to the customer typically. So they're adding value through coatings, painting, might be some sort of treatment, but it could even be fabrication, assembly, things like that. So we are increasingly really focused on on your customers' digital experience. So when they come and request a quote from you, or they accept the quote, they send you a job. Do they have visibility on that job? What is the status of that job? If you send a shipper or an invoice or any other documents, do they have access to those documents later in a digital format? Or are they calling you and asking for those shippers, months and weeks later? So the simplest way of saying it is Steelhead has designed a all-in-one platform built specifically for job shop or service-based manufacturers and coders.
I know when you first popped up in my feed, I was like, wait a minute. Like, where were you 10 years ago when I had my business? That was always, when you have a job shop, I think that was always like the weakest point. You're always trying to plug and play like project management software into there to track the progress of, the trim or the doors for this commercial hotel job. Are they in prime? Are they in prep? Are they in sand? Finish coat packaging, and then build that into a Google Calendar or some type of calendar that you're then sharing with the contractor so they can come get them. So I'm excited to kind of hear more about this, how you guys came up with the concept. But let's dig into, like, before we jump into that, let's hear your story. I know you spent some time at GM and some other automotive on the engineering side. What's your story? Like, how'd you get started in this world and how'd that progress over to Steelhead?
Sure. Thanks, Zach. So my background is mechanical engineering, and I grew up in Southeast Michigan. So kind of one foot in front of the other, decided to go mechanical engineering just because it was a broadly applicable degree. Didn't really have a specific calling in life. Went to General Motors because, transparently, out of the couple of offers I was evaluating at the end of school, is in the right spot, is near where my now wife lived, and is where I wanted to live and is the work I wanted to do. And so I spent 4 years at General Motors, started in powertrain mount analysis, so kind of CAE on the computer analysis. Very quickly learned that how I add value to the world is not through individual analysis. I can't really sit still a little bit. I went out to the proving grounds and did noise and vibration engineering. So putting accelerometers, microphones on vehicles, driving around test tracks. So whether it's a Lamborghini or a BMW or a F-150 or your electric car, right? Putting them up in dynamometers and creating noise profiles. When you drive a vehicle and you feel the vibrations, or you hear noises, highway noise, pothole, whatever it may be. There's a lot of engineering that goes into that. So that was my second role. And my third and final role at General Motors was doing body structures, design release for the Cadillac Lyriq. That's that new electric vehicle that's out in the road. So mixed material, rocker section, so integration of crash performance, corrosion, manufacturability, cost, weight, range. So it's a really incredible design when you're building things at scale and a global architecture. So I really like that from like a project management and a growth perspective and ownership of an outcome and working with multiple stakeholders. But I had a buddy out of Minneapolis. His name is Dean, actually. He's our chief revenue officer here at Steelhead. And he called me one day and we were just talking about he's like, you just got to get into sales. Like, that 40 hours a week at a huge company is just, it's just too much structure for what, we should be doing. So we started a technical sales company, and that company was a couple of engineers that worked with small, medium-sized manufacturers that had technology that they thought could be impactful to U.S. manufacturing. So we sold AI-driven chemical processing controls. We sold robotics. We sold ERP software, engineering services, even logging software. And so that was our just small business, really partnering with other small businesses that were trying to help the manufacturing space. And we bumped into an anodizing shop, actually, in Canada. And they said, yeah, those are nice things that you're talking about selling us, but what you guys really got to go build. And then they just pleaded with us for an hour straight. They said, Boeing will call us and ask, where are our parts? And we'd be like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. And then they'll spend a half an hour. And this is like, management level in the company that's supposed to be growing the business, working on the business, is now out in the plant floor, looking through 300 open work orders that they had at a time, trying to find that one order that Boeing just called and then try to find. So you go spend that 30 minutes, hour, sometimes longer to go find the part. And then Boeing asks the obvious question, great, you found my parts. When am I going to get them back? So, and then they didn't have an answer for that because, again, they only had 50 people in the shop, which is a pretty big shop, but then they had 300 active work orders at a time. And you have your standard lead time of, 3 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks. And then you get rush orders that come in at 8 a.m. and they say, I'm not leaving till my parts are done. And now they've just put a wrench in your whole beautiful schedule. And basically, and they were completely on paper. And they said things that were really got our attention. They said, we use a system out of the 90s. We've been looking for something for 10 years. We've taken every demo we can. Nothing's built for us. And there's hundreds of shops like us. So just essentially, like, please help. So the company was founded around that very acute cry for help and very specific. And really what we realized early on was the critical culprit here wasn't a better software for the front office, the folks sitting in the air conditioning, doing quoting and invoicing so they have, prettier spreadsheets. It became obvious that the core issue was really the digitization or the lack of digitization of the production floor. So once you take the production floor and all of its crazy nuance, like code it once, code it twice, code it 3 times, check out inspection, and then do another code if it needs to or doesn't need to do it. Like, so there's that's one thing that we've since discovered. So he's co-founded the company with myself, Dean, and a total of 6 co-founders, 3 of which are developers still with the team, and core founding engineers of the team. And we realized that there was a huge demand here, and in the coding space has been super interesting. First off, it's been entirely underserved, right? If you look at off-the-shelf ERP, okay, you can create a quote in a PDF and a GL and okay, the bare basics that every business on the planet has. But how do you actually map to my workflows? How does that actually map to my reality, my world? It gets very difficult. And typically what these ERPs do is they relegate to paper. They say, oh, just here's our work order traveler. So you have the whole shop running on paper. Paper is great. You can bend it in any which way you can. And the new rule is you take a red Sharpie and you circle this if that happens. So you can you can create systems on the fly in real time using paper. The problem with paper is that the cost of operating those systems is extraordinarily high, and you have no visibility on data. So that's so we've learned a lot along the way, and one of the things we learned is that the coding space is way more complex than it appears on the surface, right? You might say, hey, here's a part, here's a project, go code that part and give it back to the customer. Pretty simple. You sit there and watch for a day. It's like, yeah, I get it, right? Parts come in, you do something, those parts, you give them back. But the reality is that some of the intricacies and the unpredictabilities, and the path dependencies of the workflow can create really immense complexities. And so we've been, happily building away a really big and intensive and powerful platform specifically designed for this space. And we've had really strong commercial traction, and we've raised we actually are about to announce it shortly here, but a $12.5 million Series B. So we've raised $23 million of funding now, and we have a pretty large team, and that's all been in response to our customers' strong demand and utilization of the platform, and value realization, and seeing some of the transformational results that can provide to our customers. So we're incredibly excited to keep coming to work every day and wailing away and being the best technology partner we possibly can, and arm this industry with the best technology we can possibly provide.
Yeah. I mean, like we were saying earlier, one of the biggest issues that I ever had is always been communication and being able to track your projects, because what you don't think about when you start, and you guys are probably finding this out, and I know every painter finisher out there's listening to this, is, when you get into that whole world of how many passes with a 240 grit sandpaper are you going to make, and what is that end result, and how many steps are in between sand here to here. But if it doesn't get the end result, then you've got to, the old, what do I call it? The, what was that show with the guys that were all Big Bang Theory, where he gets like stuck in the loop of the phone call, and you got to like put little, you guys are finding all the infinite loops that end up happening in the finishing world continually. And you're building a system. I mean, I implemented an ERP, famously ERP, everyone will tell you, is trash in, trash out. That's the purpose. But the way you guys are going about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is what makes it so unique is the trash in, and it's not really trash in and trash out, because it's people.
Yeah.
It's something someone's doing. It's not a put 500 pounds of this chemical in there and 200 pounds of this chemical in there. It's something that has to be done in a service-based industry that can only really be evaluated by another person.
Yeah, Zach, that's precisely correct, and I would concur with your assessment that maybe a more traditional ERP is almost like a giant Excel sheet, where it's only useful and up to date if I walk up to it and I bang some information into it. So we actually counterintuitively want people to use our software as little as possible, right? We understand that you don't make money by playing around in our software. You make money by shipping goods and getting parts out the door, getting parts done. So our mission statement is actually to drive prosperity and productivity of job shop manufacturing by reducing transaction costs and creating actual insights. So we have to do both. We have to not only layer in a software system to model how your plant operates so you can see what's going on, track profitability, understand, did I make money or lose money on that job? Where are these parts? Streamline communication, but also has to reduce your transaction costs. So transaction costs are all of the costs that aren't directly associated with doing the work. So the quoting, the organization, the scheduling, the shipping, the invoicing, all the paperwork, all the communication is a form of transaction costs. So we want to cut that by using a really efficient workflow tool that you can use on your phone, you can use on your iPad, you have TVs on the wall. Basically, everyone knows where everything's going on in real time. And the utilization of the tool is designed to be much like Google Maps, where it's just tap, or a simple swipe. And the cost of using the system is very low. And so even if you're hiring someone that just started last week, they have a tool that they can get familiar with really quickly that guides them how to do their work. And when they interact with it, it's only a couple of seconds, tap, and I'm done. So I've completed my work. And now you've just updated everything in real time passively. So all the data entry is actually really passive. So it just kind of exists in your natural workflows without being very intrusive. So very, very little data entry, but you're still extracting passively an immense amount of data that you can use to operate your business and better serve your customer.
So you're passive. All the other data is kind of like your indirect cost is what I always refer to them as, right?
Correct.
So how are you guys able? I mean, kind of walk us through a shop flow. Whether, let's say, do you guys have any wet coatings manufacturers or wet coatings applicators using the system right now?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We have several. So we're big in the industrial coating space. So a lot of powder coaters, a lot of heat treaters, plating, anodizing, cadmium, actually casting as well, some fabricators as well. Wet coat specifically, we have several. They're more in the industrial space, like oil and gas. So if you look at Deepwater Horizon and that environmental travesty and major failure, a lot of that was attributed to part failures. So that industry has gotten really restrictive on quality. So you might paint the part multiple times and have it cure, and then cure and paint, and you might say paint it for X thickness on the first round and then Y thickness the second time. So there's these really nuanced complexities. So that's an example of a workflow where this particular customer down in Texas is quoting, I think, 80 quotes a day, 100, a couple hundred quotes a day, quite a bit of quote volume. And they're getting in these one-off parts where they have to put on certain paint thicknesses with different specifications of it has to get painted this month, has to get masking, has to get
different pieces after. Of the component has to have different DFT, dry film thickness. If it's a plural component polyurethane, you're talking different baking schedules to burn off certain other chemicals that then leave the solids there. Yeah. So like if what I'm trying to get at is how would like a typical workflow of something like that, or even if you were just to pull it back a little more simply, even like powder coat may even be a little more on the simplified scale. Like what would the workflow look like from Jimmy's metal shop and I'm getting ready to drop off X amount of linear feet of stuff to be powder coated? Like how would I trying to translate this into the painting world? Because I think this is something that could be really useful to a lot of these finishing shops that are out there that are doing nothing but running cabinet projects or trim work through their shop to be able to track it. What does the scale look like from start to drop off to pickup in relations to the software and how it tracks stuff? Does that make sense?
It does, Zach. And if I may take the liberty of extending the scope of work beyond drop off and pickup, because upstream of drop off is the request for quote. So that's typically where we workflow starting. Customer requests a quote. So, how does that impact the Steelhead software? If I understood the question correctly, the customer will request a quote. So the sales team will create the quote for the project in Steelhead. We'll specify the part, the production process, the color, the thicknesses, whatever it may be. And then they will create a price for that quote. And then they'll send that quote to the customer. Quote will send the parts in. You'll receive those parts, create a sales order in the system, and then you'll release it to production. It'll automatically create a work order, and then you'll have a series of what we call work boards, which are digital interfaces. So if you're over in masking, you're over in paint, you're over in inspection, that you have your own dedicated user interface that's super simplistic, like a very simple Kanban. So you can train people in minutes to use it. And those parts will flow digitally through your entire production plant. You'll be depleting inventory. So if you're using up paint or tape or masking or whatever it may be, again, as part of job costing to capture your materials component, as your operators are using the digital interface, the entire leadership team can track where parts are at in real time. You can also connect it to your customer portal so that your customers can track where parts are at in real time to a customizable level of granularity. So you can make it more or less granular depending on your relationship with that customer. And so as these parts flow digitally through the plant, the operators are getting real-time instructions saying, work on this part, do the work this way, apply this coating. So they're getting spoon-fed instructions on what to work on, how to do the work, what to work on next. And then as they're doing the work in the platform, we're passively collecting all the production analytics, such as where the parts are, profitability, job costing, things like that.
I'm going to stop you just so I can get in there. So like on the part where it's spoon feeding the data, is that stuff on the implementation phase that you sit down with the business owner and we come up with that data that it spoon feeds the end user or the worker? is that you create that data and then you can modify it over time as you need to, kind of like an SOP of sorts?
Yeah, digital SOP is a very accurate description. So the deployment process is deploying software is not easy. It's something that we specialize in. We have a whole team of deployment leaders and deployment specialists, and that's what they really focus on. You get their undivided attention. They're just focusing on getting your shop up and running. So whether it's importing customers, contacts, part numbers, things like that, so we can do data import into your system to get core data set up. We'll also map out your key processes and your key process flows so that you can have them built in real time, and then also you can build them one-offs on the fly. So there has to be some structure built up on how the workflows work for like the sequence of operations, things like that. What kind of specifications you're doing, any thickness measurements you're doing, any certifications you need to be generating automatically. And then where it comes to SOPs and work instructions, there's a good amount of that happens at deployment, but a lot of it happens after you're using the software every single day, because if you're doing the same part over and over again, then that instruction will just continue to be rendered back to the operator, whether it's a picture, a video, anything like that, or written instruction. But if it's a one-off job, then you take the job and you can bang in the instructions as you go through the process at the beginning before you run production, and those instructions would be there. So it's a combination of upfront building, but then also you're going to get jobs by nature of the business that you've never run before, 3 months after you deploy. So you have to be constantly updating that. And what we try to do is make it easier to just update the system, and then everyone expects the instruction out in the floor versus walking into the office and saying, how do I do this job every time?
Yeah. Okay. So do you guys have like, and this is this is kind of my weird geek out world, like an earned value phase to it, to where you can put, when you're doing the costing, you put it in there and you have some sort of what I'll call red flags or stipulations by your total cost was X and it's in A right now, and it took longer in A than what the software said it should have taken to be able to get to the endpoint. Like, do you guys have any sort of stop gaps in there where messages will come back and say, hey, prep phase was crazy long. If you maintain that workflow, you're going to be over budget here.
Yeah, absolutely, Zach. So that is one of the key benefits of running production digitally, is the ability to track what's actually happening. One of our early customers here in the Minneapolis area actually has had massive success stories in transforming their margin profiles through job costing. And the most clear way that you can tell that someone has shifted their paradigm and how they operate their business through visibility on profits is your sales team compensated on overall sales, or are they compensated on profit that they're generating for the business? And the reason why it's important is at this shop that I'm speaking of, you'll have the sales reps or the sales people, project managers, they call them, out on the plant floor talking to the person doing the blasting or the masking or the painting and saying, hey, there's no way it took you that long. We lost money on this job. And they'd be like, no. It took this long. Go fix your spreadsheets, right? Go fix your calculator, right?
Yeah.
Go back to the office, and maybe the price is wrong. Maybe I'm way undercharging that job.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
not always. It might be, it might be that the quantity of parts that they sent was not conducive to the price that we quoted, right? We expected 100 and they're sending batches of 20 parts. So the fact that we have to do all of the setup time for only 20 parts versus 100 parts makes a big difference on the profitability you can make. So maybe you're back with your customer negotiating minimum lot fees. Or what we've even seen is something like masking, where the time for an operator to do each part can range anywhere from 3 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on the capability of that operator. So it could be an opportunity to do a performance evaluation with that operator, or training, or work on best practices and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, that is amazing. I'm just geeking out about the potential of this software in the production cabinet finishing world, because there's a growing market that's just exploding right now. And what I like to call it is custom production shops. They're anywhere from 2,000 to 12,000 square foot facilities, 1 booth to 2 spray booths, and they do custom finishing on cabinets, millwork, furniture, but it's all on a job cost basis. It's not like it might be for 10 different guys and each guy might have a different price, but to be able to track that individually for some of these shops that are doing a lot of revenue, especially in the commercial millwork world. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, the potential you guys have with this software is incredible.
Zach, are they doing a lot of time and material? Is that what you're saying?
No, most of it's all bid. I mean, so I'll run you through an instance. There's a lot of shops. I'll run you through my shop. I mean, when I had my shop, it was 5,000 square foot facility. I had 2 spray booths and 2 prep areas. The project would come in and it could be from a cabinet manufacturer who built the cabinets. And then most of my stuff was flat packed. So I would get a pallet of cabinet components, all raw wood. And then I would finish them and then I would flat pack them back on that pallet. And then I would send them back to the cabinet manufacturer. He would assemble them and then he would go install them. Or I might get finished cabinets, or I might get a pallet of, we did one that was 7,000 something feet of linear trim for a hotel room. Just got pallets of trim work that I just had to prime. Or doors that you're painting, 250 doors for a hotel project. They're all the same color on the inside, one color on the inside and one color on the outside. But to be able to, and you quoted it for, let's say, $250 a linear foot. I'm just throwing a number out there on all your trim. So you build that into there and then you can run through and you have your primer specified by what mills, how many 2 coats of primer, one to total going to be 3 dry film thickness is going to be 3 mils. But the capability to be able to see that along the way, so your contractor can be like, oh, I just logged in, there's 2,000 feet of trim ready out of the 7,000 he's got 2,000 sitting on a pallet. Hey, I'm going to come grab that 2,000 and start installing it.
100%.
That business is exploding for cabinet finishers right now.
Yeah, no, that's the exact type of workflow and types of challenges we work with every single day. Like, did we make money on that job? But then also the cost of communicating with customers constantly, right? So if you've ever ordered a pizza from Domino's or, any other, you get those online little status bars, you've ordered it, it's in fulfillment, it's in the air, it's
Delivery
driving.
driver's on his way. He's in your neighborhood.
Yeah, so I think they've gone a little overboard, but like showing where the truck is at, but maybe not quite to that level, but still, like, you can say, parts have been received, parts are in process, parts are done, or just parts are received and parts are done, if depending on what granularity you want to provide to your customer. But either way, all those phone calls you get from your customers, hey, they done yet? You got that? Do you have that work done yet? Where are they at? Can you send me this document? Those phone calls go to zero. And just like, you would never really think to call Amazon or others to ask on the status of your toaster. You've just been trained to know that there's a digital experience for you to answer all of your questions. We want to provide shops that same tool set so that they can provide that, so they can focus on their job, right? Because you have a lot to focus on with your quality, with your chemicals, your paints, your materials, your labor, your people, your equipment, your municipality with wastewater. Like, there's a million things to focus on. So spending time telling a customer that 2,000 out of 7,000 linear feet of work is done, that's work we don't need to be doing, right? We can work on something more important.
This is like the last piece of the puzzle, because I help painting contractors a lot now that are looking to scale their business. And, one of my big deals is we got to get you out of working in the business to work on the business. That's the only way you can create a scalable company. And in order to do that, you have to automate tasks, because there's that gap, because you're service based. You only get paid when your guys are working. So you have to do everything in your power to always keep them working. So you have to automate a lot of tasks. And I will say, there's always been that gap of tracking jobs in the shop to make sure, one, you're bidding them correctly, so you're not losing money on them. And you either go out there with a stopwatch and you're timing your guys on sanding doors and spraying a rack, that then go back and look at the last 4 estimates you just did based on plans, either figuring out a square footage or a linear foot price to make sure you didn't mess up and you're still going to make money, that's only been the only way. The implementation of a software like this is, for lack of an overused term, it's going to be a game changer to the painting world. I really do believe that.
The only thing I'd add to that, because it's really a salient story. One of our early customers was really stressed out. I mean, the question I'd ask, Zach, ask yourself or anyone that's kind of in that space that you described is, if the amount of work you're doing doubles, does your workload double? Like, if that's the case, then that's a sign that you need systems, right? Because
exactly.
Your work should be able to double, and your day-to-day shouldn't double. Otherwise, by definition, you have no real scale, and you're going to hit limits of what your body can endure, and it's going to come at the cost of your, frankly, work-life balance and health and other things. We had a shop owner that was 6 people at the time in the whole business, and when we first started working with him, this is probably 2.5 years ago now, he was saying, my doctor is ordering me not to work so much, like very stressed out. He just works like crazy, trying to keep up, new orders, whatever, just doing everything. And so we went through a deployment with them, and they've gotten into fabrication and they do powder coating as well. And they've grown their business significantly. They're up to like 15 people in the business. So they've grown the revenue multiple times over, doing higher margin, more sophisticated work. And just this year, he's said, hey, I just took a 3-week vacation in Costa Rica, and I came back and the business was running because their system stood up in each of the departments and the team's been trained and the customers have been trained. So the trains are just running down the tracks, and it doesn't require in this case, the owner's involvement day to day, decision by decision, order by order. They can back out and, not just go on vacation for 3 weeks, which was very well earned. He'd worked for many years straight at very high levels, but also working on the business, right? Having the flexibility to say, what am I going to do next Thursday? It's like, no. What do you mean? What do you mean? What am I going to do next Thursday? I'm going to work all day, right? I'm just going to come in and keep the lights on and not drown, right? So if you can say next Thursday, I'm working on this for the first 3 hours of the day, and there's no issues with that, that's a really transformational place to move, sometimes personally for your own work-life balance, but certainly for the business as well.
That's huge for these guys that are really wanting to take, and that's the whole focus of this podcast is taking an industry and turning it into a professional career. Like you said earlier, the painting industry, the service base and the coatings has been marginalized for years. A lot of people, it's a painting, anybody can do it. Well, that's not true. But have guys like yourself and companies that are actually looking at this industry and saying, all right, how do we help these guys become the next freaking Amazon, for lack of a better company to compare yourself to be a juggernaut in the industry and have stuff coming from all over? Like, these are the steps that it takes to get our industry there. And I applaud you. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys somebody bugs you long enough to get it going.
Yeah, Zach, one of my favorite questions to ask is like, how many college degrees do you have in this company? We had our in-person event in the Detroit office called Revenue Riptide. We have the website URL, revenueriptide.com. It's an in-person like networking and growth event for our jobs, our customers, user conference. And one of our favorite customers, Rob, was asking him in a panel, so you have 50 people, you're doing work for large OEMs, you're doing all sorts of kind of big city jobs. Like, how many college degrees do you guys have in your shop? He said 0. He's like, actually, no, I think my wife has one. And I think the Sam's got a half of a degree. He dropped out halfway through, but it's really the American dream. He graduated college, went and worked at his parents' auto repair shop, and it's transformed into a coatings manufacturer. And now they have automated equipment. They're up to 50 people in the business, growing really, really strongly. I mean, incredible, enterprise or entrepreneurial sacrifice by the owner. But the point is like, you don't need to have a PhD in astrophysics or Ivy League connections or any of that crap, right? I mean, you can just come in, work hard, be respectful, treat your employees right, retain key talent, build great customer relationships, do quality work day in, day out, and you can build a really important a business and interject yourself in the middle of some really critical industries. So it's the American dream.
And then, my always add to that is, and have fun while you're doing it. This isn't a stressful business. You can have fun while you're out there. I mean, what's the point if you're not having fun? But do me a favor, walk us through the implementation timeline and phase of what it looks like if I've got a couple guys that reach out and say, Jeff, get your ass over here. I need this software ASAP. What does that look like beginning to end?
So we see a pretty broad range, anywhere from like 5 people all the way up to several hundred people. So I'll focus more on the lower end. So let's just say 5 to 40 people in a company. So at the lowest end, it's typically about 2 weeks. And that's just because that's about how much time it takes to change anything in a shop. But even if you're up to a 20, 30, 40 headcount shop, the whole surgery is done in maybe about 3 to 5 weeks. And so we pride ourselves on being hands-on, also on speed, because a lot of ERPs out in the world take 18 months, 2 years to deploy. Nobody's got that time, and people lose steam. So we got to keep the pace going. We have to strike while the iron's hot. We have to scope the project, work with our customers. So from kicking off a partnership, we actually have a phase called deployment prep, where we work with our deployment prep manager to make sure that you have Wi-Fi, make sure you have devices, make sure you have your accounting software integrated, or you're using our accounting software, whichever it is. Make sure you have customer lists, any of the core information organized, and you have the team agreed to a start date. So there's kind of like almost like the nurse preparing the patient for surgery, right? You don't want to take your high value surgeons and have them wheeling patients out of the parking lot, right? You go have a nurse go do that and get the patient ready. So we do a lot of prep, get all the ducks in a row, and say, all right, starting November 1st, we're going. Because we really want it to be a very deliberate, intensive process, and keep the momentum really high, keep lots of momentum, and get quick wins. So, it takes 2 to 5 weeks, depending on the size of your shop. And the first steps are, we'd like to do a Zoom walkthrough where the customer will actually walk around with Zoom, doing this is my shop, this is my ovens, this is my paint booth, this is my inventory, this is the trucking bay. And so we'll use that to start building out your model in our software. And we'll do you'll come up to our office and do a hatchery experience where you come in and do a live training event that we provide free of charge up front. And, it's you and your key team spending a day to, work on the business, as you mentioned, to imagine your shop in a new space, using a new system. And then we go and we work with individual role players. So if you have someone that works on shipping, someone that works on quoting, someone that works on production, we'll work with them individually to test to make sure the system's working properly. And then we'll either do a virtual launch if it's a smaller shop, or we'll come on site. And whether your operators speak English or Spanish or whatever, or Vietnamese, we've seen it all. We'll be there working with the team, wearing a nice shirt that says Steelhead on it, so people can raise their hand and say, "Hey, I have a question," because the last thing we want to do is say, "Okay, Zach, this is your project. You have to launch it," but you're already running the whole shop, right? So we try to do as much heavy lifting as possible with our customers to help push it through and get training up and running and get the whole system of record switched over. So your whole business is saying, okay, tomorrow morning, Steelhead is the system of record, or creating a phased rollout plan or something. But we'd like to operate in days and weeks, certainly not months.
Good. That's good. Because you're in the service-based world, you can't afford to. That's another big drawback to an ERP. Typical ERP implementation is 24 months and then another 24 months of headaches to figure out the previous 24 months. What about, I'm trying to think how to word this. All right. So if I understood you correctly, Steelhead can be the sole software to run the entire ship.
That's correct, Zach. What people will use pre-Steelhead is a huge range of softwares. You listed off a few. What we see out there is, maybe they'll use Salesforce or some sort of CRM for sales, if any. They'll use QuickBooks for accounting typically. Sometimes they'll use that for work orders as well, or just print out the sales order and write on it or something like that. Sometimes people have a dedicated work order software. Inventory is often in Excel or Microsoft Access, or some sort of inventory maintenance, maybe using Maintain X or some other point solution. We've even seen people using Procurify for purchasing software. Timesheets, we use timesheets.com for timesheets. You use payroll.com for payroll. So you basically create a compilation of about 5, 10, 15 systems, sometimes more, or Excel sheets or quality systems or scheduling systems. And you just create Excel sheets, create whiteboards. We've been in environments where they spend 4 hours a day updating a single whiteboard, and that's their tool for scheduling. And it's just the one person's job is to keep on updating the status where jobs are at. Like literally the jobs are go from here to there, and you go up to the whiteboard and you update
you got to move
so
it all around. Yeah. It's a mess.
it's insanely expensive. Or log sheets, paper and pencil of production, and you take it up and someone bangs it into Excel. So you are right, Zach. Our offering is to essentially dump all of that and move to a single integrated system. And the reason why that's so valuable is because is two main reasons. One, the cost of running your business comes down because you spend less time entering data into two different systems, which fundamentally has to happen when you use multiple systems. So it reduces the cost of operating your business, saves you a ton of time, but it also creates a ton of actionable insights, meaning you can see your quality information, your production information, your financial information, your customer information, your production, your shipping, your invoicing, all in a single system. And you can pull it up on your phone while you're, at the bus stop or in an airplane, and you can see your entire business at your fingertips without diving into 15 different separate systems.
That was going to be a follow-up. Is do you guys have like an easily readable user interface where someone can go in and just see all the metrics that they choose and say X, Y, and Z through some sort of database, but you can basically see everything on there that you want to see, whether it be receivables, payables, purchasing, payroll, and production rates?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if screen share is something that you do typically on the podcast here, but maybe we can. I see a button here to share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to share, man. I'd say go for it. This will be a first.
Okay, well, let's go to Whirl here. Let me get set up here.
Because I do like the fact now, if you have a company that is kind of in that middle world that has an ERP, do you guys have a good interface that will talk to ERP softwares through? I used to know what computer language it used to be called, but I mean, do you have the capability to talk to other softwares?
Yeah. So right now we integrate with accounting software. So that's the main one that we do. But we are the ERP. So we're typically not integrating with the ERP. We're replacing it. So okay, I've got my screen up here, Zach. Yeah, let me just wheel around for a few minutes here. You kind of asked about the interface. So it's all in one. So quoting, whether we're creating quotes for particular customers, we can add a work to that. We can email that quote right to the customer, so we can send it off, provide that beautiful digital experience, customized PDF. So all of our sales orders will be in here that we're doing. So all of the work that we're gonna, and then creating active work orders, and then the work boards out in the production floor. So you can see it's super simple, right? If I'm doing a particular job, I can see there's a green dot there. It's got instructions. I can see what's scheduled. I can deplete inventory. So you can see photos, images, videos on how to do that. You can see I have a timer here, which we can have those auto start, but you can run timers on job costing. You can deplete inventory. You can leave work order comments, things like that. And when you're done, you just simply click move parts and they're gone, right? So it's very simple Kanbans that you can set up many in your entire shop, but inventory, accounting, insights, shipping. So you can create, do any shipping, receiving. So basically all the paperwork, you just do it right on your phone. We've had shops using our shipping module on their iPhone for years now. You can, create invoices quickly and easily, time and material on unpriced parts. You can do shipping, invoice off of shipping, quality management, maintenance. So it's a really broad platform, but it's super approachable, super easy to use. And again, really, really tailored around the finishing world, finishing and coding, and then also jumping over to our insights. So basically it's a bunch of turnkey reports that work out of the gate here. There's a little loading period as we initially load the database here, but I can see, for example, my sales order backlog. I can see, production. So like dock to dock time for various processes. And I can filter these and save different views if I like. Inventory over time, quality management, what are my rework events? I can dive into saved reports or rework by category and break that data out. Shipping, receiving, customer on time deliveries, etc. So really dynamic data that you can analyze and Then there's chat as well. So we see a lot of folks using, using Slack and Teams. So we built a chat application on top, so you can actually reference individual parts. And then, of course, a customer portal, other things that we've discussed. But so that's a quick view of the software there.
So let's talk. I know we're wrapping up, and I know you're a busy guy. Let's kind of wrap it up with implementation investment. Like, what are we looking at on the small scale? I would say under 8 guys with devices and things that you would recommend would be the average investment.
So if we're 8 people and we're not looking for a aerospace level quality management system, and we're looking to track time, material, inventory, job costing, part transfers, customer service, keep track of parts, regain sanity for the owner, I would say kind of those kind of that first kind of institutional organization.
First tier,
technology. Yeah. So less than 8 people. So there's going to be little to no upfront cost. If you have our team come on site, there's a small fee to cover travel. But other than that, there's no upfront. It is just a subscription basis, and it can start for just a few $100s, depending on what you're working on. But the beautiful thing is when that shop goes from 6 people to 20 to 30, we're right there to grow with you. And we work with shops on the whole scale, anywhere from, I think, 3, 4, 5 people at the low end to hundreds of people. So that's one of the benefits of working with a technology partner like us, is we focus on this all day, every day, and we can be a resource for you. But as far as an investment,
But like if you were a shop, let's say 6 guys, 4 to 6 guys, and then doing shop finishing, and you wanted to do, because you'd mentioned TVs, so you could put like either an iPad station or a display monitor in the packaging, so they know what's coming in, shipping and receiving. So that would be the cost. Would that just be a computer there, or are we talking, like, how would that work?
Great question, Zach. The hardware side is very easy. It could be as simple as literally an iPhone or a tablet. We don't have people that it's not a mobile app. It's all on the web app. But we have people that use the mobile app or the phone all day long. iPads are really common, so any tablet, but computers as well. So you can buy a computer for as little as like $110, right, on Amazon.
So it's all it's all cloud based.
Yep, cloud based, off the shelf web connectivity. So the IT rollout's usually pretty cost effective, just Wi-Fi and some devices.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. I'm just thinking of a couple guys that I need to play with this software and send it to a couple guys that I think actually might benefit them really well. I mean, what about any last bit of information just in general about Steelhead and anything that you think the community would benefit from? And also socials. Let's get those, make sure we get those out there, because I want everybody to go check it out.
Sure. So our website is gosteelhead.com. If my advice would be, it costs very little to learn. So we have a sales team. So if you go on to gosteelhead.com and book a demo, it's going to cost you 15, 20 minutes of your time, but you're going to have your eyes opened and you're going to learn something. I guarantee you're going to learn something, and you're going to ask them anything you want, and they'll tell you to the best of their ability. But so it's a very small investment that could potentially change your life, right? I'm going to invest 15, 20 minutes just to see what's possible, what's out there. And if I decide to do it and it changed my life, then, that's the highest ROI you'll ever see. But if somehow, it's all trash and it doesn't apply to you at all, well, it'll cost you 20 minutes, right? So that's why I would implore people. And don't just look at our system, look at other systems, right? Go take 3, 4, 5 demos, right? And see what's best for you. But don't view that as a big hurdle. Some people just kind of close down and they refuse to go look to see what's out there. I would encourage you. We're talking, just set up 3 30-minute demos. We're talking an hour and a half for a major fundamental part of your business that's going to impact everything that you do for every day for all of time. It's worth, come on, a little bit of time. Just peek under the hood, see what's going on, ask a few questions, right? Let your guard down for 30 minutes and say, maybe a better way is out there. That'd be my advice. Other just generic, advice for the industry, I would really think about the customer's experience and how can you provide the best experience to your customer, right? In a world where, if you've got your quality dialed and your lead time dialed, how can you provide as much value to your customer? I really think about what is their experience. How many times do they have to call you? How many times do they have to email you? How much friction is it to be a customer of your shop? And what can we do to reduce that? And in my opinion, that's through digital experiences. That's what the world has come to know, expect, and love. So I would really start thinking proactively about how you're going to manage your customer's experience over the years. And then, yeah, the last thing I'd say is just, take a look. As far as social medias, we're on LinkedIn and X and I believe Facebook, but yeah, Steelhead Technologies. And we'd be excited to chat with anyone who wants to learn more.
So that'll lead me into one more quick question. I mean, and granted, it's been a while. I sold my business 5+ years ago, but 5+ years ago, I don't think you guys existed in this particular segment that you're in now. What does the space and the coatings, and in particular this software set, exist? I mean, you're talking about a very narrow focused software. Like, do you guys have a lot of competitors out there? Is it still pretty niche? Like, I would say maybe 2 or 3 of you at tops.
Yeah, I'd say 2 or 3 is not off base. Frankly, Zach, dumb luck, ignorance, whatever you want to call it. We didn't even look who our competitors might have been when we started the company. All we said is like, hey, this customer is really, really in pain. So let's start building incredible technology. Honestly, it was like a year later where someone's like, who are your competitors? Like, oh yeah, I don't know. Good question. Let me go look. So there are a few out there that do focus on the space, tend to be 1990s, early 2000s. So a generation or 2 behind as far as like cutting edge technology. So again, that really typically lends itself towards paper-based manufacturing, where the software is built for front office, it's built for creating sales orders and invoices only, right? For the folks in the air conditioning, not for the folks out in the floor sweating, actually making money for the business. So that's really been the key differentiator where we've come in and really insisted and put in millions of dollars of investment into providing a tool that's usable on the production floor. And that's unlocked tremendous value in addition to what kind of some of the legacy players have been providing in the space.
I mean, this has been an awesome eye-opening interview for myself, man. I appreciate you coming on. One thing I always like to do is give the community insight to the guys that are, whether it be sales or, applicators. Like, what's Jeff outside of Steelhead? What's a passion that you have that might connect with some guys out there? What do you do when you're not knee deep in trying to sell the software?
Sure. I have a 4, 2, and 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 6-month-year-old boys. So that consumes a fair amount of time. So outside of work and family, there is a small sliver of I'd say discretionary time. Myself and my wife, our family, we're really big on food and nourishment. So we go to farmers markets a lot. I like to hunt. I've gotten 2 deer so far this year. I like to eat the organs and really put thought into preparation of the meals. So I'm a bit of a foodie. I like to hunt. I like to fish. I would garden more, but I just cheat and go to the farmer's market every week. So that's kind of our special thing. I take a lot of saunas on the weekends. I play hockey twice a week. So that pretty much consumes the small sliver of time that's available outside of family and work.
That's awesome, man. So you play hockey just like on like a men's league?
Yeah. I play Fridays at 6 a.m. and Sunday evenings, which I wish were in the mornings as well. But yeah, it alternates either 7:30 or 9 p.m. or 8 and 9:30 p.m. on Sundays. So 2 men's leagues. Yeah.
Oh man, that's pretty awesome. Well, man, Jeff, awesome interview. I think you guys have got something really incredible. I mean, we get you guys out there into some more focus groups on this wet coatings application, and I think you guys are going to make a big splash. I really, really do. I appreciate you coming on, insights, everything, sharing what you guys have with the community that I've got. I know there's going to be some guys that are definitely going to benefit from this. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. And yeah, huge thank you to the industry. Obviously we, like everyone that has a business, we don't exist without our customers. So we when people use the software and say, hey, it can make us better. Could you guys build this? Can you guys build that? So we love working with passionate customers that are trying to grow their business and improve their lives and serve their community and their customers. So we're really looking forward to engaging with the community deeper and really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys, go check out Jeff on LinkedIn and check out Steelhead Technologies. Let us know what you think and hope everybody enjoyed the show. We will see you next week. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. We thank everyone for joining. Keep hustling, keep learning, and never settle for anything less than your best. Remember, the path to perfection is a journey, not a destination. Until next time.